January 12, 1943. Eastern Poland, a snow-covered wilderness. The chill in the air is relentless, cutting through the frozen landscape like a blade. A train, once sleek and functional, now creaks along the tracks, carrying more than just bodies. The rail cars are packed with people. Over 200 civilians, mostly Jewish families, huddled together for warmth. The train's journey is supposed to be temporary, but in the frigid silence of the night, there's a haunting sense that time is running out for everyone on board. Inside the cramped cars, every breath comes with a frost. The passengers huddle together, layering themselves with every bit of cloth they can find: coats, scarves, old blankets. But it's never enough. The cold is too deep, too all-encompassing. The kind of cold that gnaws at the bones, turning fingers and toes into dead weight like ice on fire. These people are already walking ghosts, drifting into a space between life and death. Every minute that passes in this frozen box feels like a year. The train is on a slow and steady track toward the death camps. But even here, the horror is not just external. It is a war with the body itself. Amidst the passengers is Vera, a nurse by profession, but now, in this context, she's a desperate woman clinging to hope. Her breath comes out in clouds, her eyes scanning the faces around her. Some are sleeping, if you can call it that, dazed, exhausted, and numb to the world around them. Others are wide awake, their eyes searching the darkened train for signs of any hope, any salvation. But Vera knows, in the way that only someone with medical training can, that this is not a place for hope. It's a place for survival, and even that is slipping away with every mile. She walks through the train with a practiced calm, her boots creaking against the frozen floorboards. Every step is a reminder of the situation at hand. She's not here to comfort, not really. She's here to keep people alive, to hold the thin thread of humanity that still exists between them. But the reality of what's happening is impossible to ignore. The train lurches forward, moving at a pace that mirrors the fading pulse of its passengers. Vera looks down at her medical kit, a small, tattered bag that has seen too many horrors to count. She knows the contents by heart: bandages, a few bottles of medicine that are dwindling fast, some antiseptics. But what use is that now? The cold is the enemy, and no medicine will stop it. Even the small vial of morphine in her bag won't be enough to ease the suffering of those freezing to death around her. She stops for a moment by a young mother who is cradling a child in her arms. The child's skin is blue, the hands trembling uncontrollably. The mother's face is hollowed out, eyes wide with panic and exhaustion. The child doesn't even have the energy to cry anymore. Vera kneels down beside them, her breath fogging in the air as she gently places her hand on the mother's shoulder. "Is there anything more you can do?" the woman whispers, her voice barely audible. It's a question filled with desperation, a question that isn't really asking for an answer. Vera doesn't reply at first. There's nothing to say. She can't offer hope when there is none to give. All she can do is perform small acts of kindness, try to hold back the cold, and buy them just a little more time. She adjusts the blanket around the child, pulls her coat tighter around her own shoulders, and stands up. There's no time to waste. She moves to the next car, past the groans and cries, past the hollowed faces of men and women, some of whom are already slipping into delirium. In one of the cars, she finds an elderly man who has collapsed on the floor. His skin is waxen, and his eyes are vacant, staring up at nothing. She kneels beside him, checking for a pulse, but it's weak, fading. She presses her fingers against his wrist, willing him to hold on, even though she knows it's unlikely. She reaches into her bag, pulling out a small ampoule of adrenaline, trying to force life back into him. But the man is too far gone, and after a moment, his body goes limp in her arms. Vera closes his eyes gently, her hand lingering on his face for a moment before she stands up and turns away. The moment is too brief to be mourned, too fleeting to make a difference. There's no time for grief, not now. The train continues to roll forward, its wheels screeching against the tracks, as if in protest to the people inside. The cold is unbearable. The silence of the passengers is louder than any scream. And in the quiet, Vera can almost hear the ticking of the clock in her mind, each second slipping away, each breath more labored than the last. There's nothing left for her to do but keep moving, to keep fighting, even when every part of her screams to stop. But she can't stop. She can't give up. She was trained to save lives, not to watch them slip away. But in this world, on this frozen train, life is fleeting, and survival seems like an impossible dream. The train comes to a halt suddenly, the screech of the brakes jolting Vera from her thoughts. She stumbles forward, catching herself on the edge of a nearby seat. The momentary stop feels like an eternity, and she knows instinctively that the destination is near. She doesn't have to be told. The train isn't stopping for a rest or to take on more passengers. It's stopping because they're almost there, and what awaits them on the other side is far worse than any freezing train car could ever be. But there's a flicker of hope in Vera's chest. It's small, fragile, almost imperceptible, but it's there. In the brief lull of motion, something stirs in her. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe she can save just a few. If she can keep moving, keep her focus, keep acting when everything around her is slipping away, maybe she can make a difference. But she doesn't know how much time is left. And as the cold air outside seeps into the cars, she knows the clock is ticking. January 13th, 1943. The train groans forward, its engine struggling against the biting winds that lash at the carriages. Outside, the snow is a blinding sheet of white, the landscape a blur of frozen monotony. Inside, the stench of sweat, fear, and human desperation hangs thick in the air. It's become a suffocating cloud, an invisible weight on everyone aboard. But Vera doesn't notice the stench, not anymore. She's past that point, past the aching cold, past the heartache. All that matters now is what she can do with the limited time and resources left. She can't stop. She won't stop. The night is long, stretching endlessly ahead, and yet it passes in a haze. Vera moves from one car to the next, her boots crunching over the frozen floorboards as she checks on the passengers. Some are beyond help, their bodies already too far gone, their lives slipping through her fingers like water. Others are barely holding on, eyes glassy, lips cracked, their strength draining with each passing moment. Vera stops for only a moment with each of them, long enough to assess the situation, to offer what little comfort she can. An extra blanket, a reassuring touch, a whispered promise that they'll be okay. But she knows those promises are empty. She knows better. The train is moving toward an inevitable fate, and there is no way to escape it. But Vera can still fight. She can still give these people a chance, even if it's a slim one. She moves with purpose now, setting to work with a quiet urgency. She has no medical supplies to speak of, just the basics in her kit, and even those are quickly running out. There are no doctors here, no trained personnel, just her, a nurse with no more answers than anyone else. But she knows something others don't. Sometimes survival isn't about skill. It's about heart. And Vera's heart, though weary, beats with a fierce determination. If she can make the difference between life and death for even one person, it will matter. In one car, a father is cradling his young daughter, who has begun to cough violently, her small frame racked with spasms. The child's skin is clammy, her breath shallow. Vera kneels beside them, instinctively checking the girl's temperature. It's high, far too high. She places a hand on the father's arm, offering him a small, strained smile. "I'll do what I can," she says, though she knows it's a lie. The cold is seeping into the girl's lungs, and there's nothing she can do to stop it. The father's face is a mask of worry, but he doesn't question her. He just nods, clutching his daughter tighter, as if trying to transfer his own warmth to her. Vera steps back, knowing there's no time to waste. She opens her medical bag, rifling through its few remaining contents. The morphine vials are empty, and there's nothing in the way of antibiotics. All she has are the basics: aspirin, a few bandages, some antiseptic. None of it is enough, but she'll use every last drop if it means keeping the girl alive for just a little longer. She holds the girl's hand, steadying it while she administers the aspirin. There's a moment of silence as she watches the child's chest rise and fall, the faintest glimmer of life still hanging on. She thinks about what might happen next, about what her role is in all of this. She isn't a soldier. She isn't a fighter. She's just a woman with a job to do. And in this moment, her job is to keep this little girl alive. The minutes stretch on. Vera leaves the family and moves toward the next car, but the feeling of the girl's small hand in hers lingers. She knows it will always stay with her, the weight of that touch, the trust in those innocent eyes. The girl's life is in her hands, and if Vera cannot save her, then she must at least give her the dignity of being cared for in her final moments. That she can offer. The cold presses in like a force of nature, relentless and indifferent to the people inside the train. Vera can feel it biting at her skin as she moves from car to car. Her fingers are numb now, her breath ragged, but she ignores it. She focuses on what she can do. A woman in another car is cradling a feverish infant, and Vera doesn't hesitate. She kneels beside them, her hands gentle as she feels the baby's temperature. Too high, too dangerous. Vera fumbles in her bag for anything that might help. Some old gauze, a small vial of antiseptic. The infant's cries fill the air, sharp and pleading, and Vera's heart tightens. But there's no time to waste, no room for hesitation. She presses the cool cloth to the child's forehead, doing what she can, even though she knows it won't be enough. It won't be enough for any of them, none of them. And yet, she keeps moving, keeps fighting against the cold, against the clock. In the distance, a loud clang echoes through the train, a signal. Vera looks up sharply, heart pounding. She recognizes the sound. It's the sound of the train slowing down. She has only moments before they reach their destination. Her heart sinks. She knows where they are headed. It's not a place for survivors. It's a place where death waits for them all. There's no escape from it. But Vera refuses to let the fear consume her. She won't give up. Not yet. She moves toward the back of the train, seeking out more people who might need her help. She's exhausted, drained in every possible way. Her hands shake with the cold, and her head is clouded with exhaustion. But there is no other option. She's the only one who can do this. She's the only one left with any hope. As the train lurches again, Vera stops for a moment. The weight of the situation presses down on her. She knows the odds are slim. She knows she's fighting against forces that are far bigger than any one person. But she also knows that this moment right here is the only thing she can control. If she can save even one person, it will matter. And if she can't, then at least she can say she fought until the end. The train rattles to a halt. The sound reverberates through her bones, a sickening reminder of what's to come. Vera knows that the journey is far from over. There are still people to tend to, still lives hanging in the balance. She takes a deep breath, steadies herself, and walks to the door of the next car. It's time to keep moving. February 5th, 1943. The winter is already beginning to thaw, but the memory of that frozen journey has not. The train, long gone, has left nothing behind except the eerie silence that clings to the land like a heavy fog. The people who survived the frozen death march that night have scattered, their lives forever altered by what they witnessed and endured. Yet there is no one to speak of Vera, the nurse who defied the odds to keep them alive. Her name is lost to time, buried under layers of history that chose to forget. Forgotten, too, are the countless others who fought, silently and without recognition, to keep a flicker of hope alive in a world gone cold with cruelty. The survivors are scattered across the globe now, their stories slipping through the cracks of memory like sand through an open hand. Some have made it to distant shores, seeking refuge in places that will never fully understand the depth of what they lived through. Others still carry the scars, both seen and unseen, of that journey. They remember Vera, though they never knew her name, never knew the weight of her struggle. To them, she's just a shadow, a fleeting presence, a figure who moved quietly through the dark and saved lives without ever asking for anything in return. Years pass, and the war fades from public consciousness. The pages of history turn, and new stories emerge, their voices loud and forceful. overshadowing the quieter ones. The world moves on, as it always does. But the question lingers. How many stories like Vera's have been lost to the tides of time, erased by the simple, indifferent act of forgetting? How many acts of quiet heroism have slipped through the cracks, drowned out by the roar of more prominent names? The survivors, now aging and frail, speak of her in hushed tones when they can find each other. The memory is always the same: her calm presence, her determination, her refusal to surrender to the inevitable. They remember the moments she spent at their sides, offering whatever comfort she could, tending to their wounds, whispering words of encouragement. She was there, and in those moments, she was everything they needed: a nurse, a mother, a stranger who stepped into their lives when the world seemed to have abandoned them. But even in their recollections, Vera is little more than a name on the tip of their tongues, a blur in their memories. She is not a hero in the way history defines heroes. There were no medals for her, no grand speeches or public recognition. Her victory was small, quiet, intimate. It was the difference between life and death for the ones she tended to, and that was enough for her. But it was never enough for the world to take notice. In the end, that is the cruel paradox of war. The greatest acts of bravery are often the most invisible, the most anonymous. The loudest voices are the ones that shout the names of generals, of leaders, of those whose actions are measured in grand, public moments. And yet, it is the quiet ones, the ones who fight against the odds, against the indifference of the world, that often go unnoticed. For years, Vera's story lies dormant, a footnote lost in the folds of history. But in the years after the war, a few survivors, driven by a shared need to honor the memory of those who had been forgotten, begin to speak of her. It's a slow process, a whisper that grows louder with time. They write letters, attend reunions, share their stories with anyone who will listen. They remember how Vera fought against the cold, against the institutions that sought to erase them, against the very forces of death itself. They remember the small, quiet acts of kindness she gave them in the face of unimaginable suffering. But even then, the world does not listen. The recognition never comes, and the world moves on, leaving Vera's story to fade back into obscurity. The survivors, now scattered across the world, never see her name in the history books, never hear it spoken in the halls of power. It is as if Vera never existed at all. In the decades that follow, the collective memory of the war becomes more polished, more sanitized. The stories of the heroes, the ones who fought in the front lines, the ones who won battles and commanded armies, are the ones that dominate the narrative. The quiet sacrifices of those like Vera, who fought in the shadows, are lost in the noise. The paradox remains. The people who fought the hardest, who gave the most, are the ones whose stories remain buried, their courage erased by the very systems they sought to resist. And yet, there's a small group of people who continue to remember. They tell their children, their grandchildren, the stories of the woman who saved their lives on that frozen train. They pass the story down through generations, ensuring that, at least among them, Vera will never be forgotten. But the world at large moves on, indifferent to the lives that came before, content to forget the ones who mattered most. Perhaps it is human nature to forget.